right, folks, I think we're just about ready. U.S. Army veteran. All right, Kirk Copel, U.S. Marine veteran. Mary Gray, Navy veteran. Doug Carter. Tony. Iris. Is anyone here from Ladies of the Grand Army of the Republic? Because you're carrying that, it won't rain. If you didn't have it, it would rain. That should hit you a lot better. Good? That's good. All right. Okay. Well, hello and welcome to the Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument. I'm your Executive Director, Greg Palumbo. I'm asked often why we have traditional Decoration Day on May 30th. Today is commonly known as Memorial Day today, but it was originally Decoration Day, and it was born of the Grand Army of the Republic. We'll be hearing that order in just a bit, establishing Decoration Day. But those veterans of the Civil War look to remember and honor their comrades who had given the ultimate sacrifice and service to our country. We would like to begin this service remembering the oaths which they swore to uphold and those which we abide to today. Please rise for the playing of our national anthem, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Please stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You can go ahead and be seated for our invocation. I'd like to invite our Commissioner and Treasurer, sorry about that. John. Hi, John.
Let's bow our heads. Spirit of peace, keeper of memory, we gather on this sacred ground beneath the shadow of stone and legacy, a monument raised in honor of those who served in our nation's most trying hour. Here we remember over 9,000 of our county's own who answered the call to preserve the Union and secure liberty. Yet today, as we mark this traditional Decoration Day, our remembrance embraces not only them, but all who have laid down their lives in service to the United States, in every ward, on every field, from every generation. Let this time of remembrance bind us not only to the past, but to each other, across the lines of time, race, and creed. May the courage of the fallen kindle in us a deeper love of country, a renewed commitment to peace, and an abiding gratitude for those who gave all. In memory and unity, we honor them. Amen.
Thank you, John Silvis, Commissioner John Silvis. That's what I get for not writing things down. Surrounding the monument, thank you for joining us today here at the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. We are a 130-year-old Civil War monument dedicated to the 9,000 names inside of men that served just from Cuyahoga County in the Civil War. If this monument was for the entire state, it would be 32 stories tall. 1,000 of those young men would not come home. and that is in a county of about 53,000 at the outbreak of the war. It was a major impact to this community. So much so that we were overwhelmingly supported by the community when it came time to build this monument about 30 years after the war. Those veterans were part of the Grand Army of the Republic, who, through General Order Number 11, were instructed to decorate and honor the graves of their fallen comrades. We do that today in our flower beds and have been for 131 years. You can see those different corps badges reflected from our monument into the flower beds, as well as the badges of the Grand Army of the Republic, as well as the Civil War Naval Veterans badge. Today, I would like to welcome former Executive Director Tim Daly to read Order Number 11 of 1868.
Headquarters, Grand Army of the Republic. General Order Number 11, Washington, D.C., May 5th, 1868. The 30th day of May, 1868, is dedicated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land. In this observance, no form of ceremony is prescribed, but post and comrades will, in their own way, arrange such fitting services and testimonials of respect as circumstances may permit. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind and fraternal feelings which have bound together the soldiers, sailors, and Marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result, than cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead, who made their breast the barricade between our country and its foes. Their soldier wives were the revelry of freedom to erase in chains, and their death the tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that the consecrated wealth and taste of a nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of her slain defenders. Let no wanton feet tread rudely on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism of appearance or neglect, no ravages of time testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. If our eyes grow dull, other hands slack, and other hearts cold in this solemn trust, ours shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remains to us. Let us then, at the time appointed, gather around their sacred remains and garland the passionless mounds above them with the choicest flowers of springtime. Let us rise above them the dear old flag they saved from his honor. Let us in this solemn presence renew our pledges to aid and assist those who have been left among us, a sacred charge upon a nation's gratitude. Let us, in this solemn presence, renew our pledges to aid and assist those whom they have left among us, a sacred charge upon a nation's gratitude, the soldiers and sailors, widow and orphan. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope that it will be kept up year to year while a survivor of the war remains to honor the memory of his departed comrades. He earnestly desires the public press
to lend its friendly aid, bringing to the notice of comrades in all parts of the country a time for simultaneous compliance thereof. Department commanders will use efforts to make this order into effect. By order of John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief.
Thank you, Tim. And thank you all for being those other hands with us today as we continue that charge of General Order Number 11. It is my pleasure now to introduce Captain Jonathan A. Roche, Company Commander of the Medina Recruiting Company, United States Army Recruiting Command. Captain Roche began his military career when he attended the United States Military Academy at West Point, and upon graduation was commissioned into the active duty Army as a second lieutenant in the Armor Branch on 21st of May, 2016. Over his career, he has held several posts, both in the United States and abroad, with impressive advancement, which is soon to include French language training and the completion of a master's degree in African regional studies prior to being assigned to sub-Saharan Africa as a foreign area officer. He has also earned the following awards during his career: 2 Meritorious Service Medals, 1 Army Commendation Medal, 3 Army Achievement Medals, the National Defense Service Ribbon, the Global War on Terrorism Medal, the Korean Defense Service Medal, the Army Service Ribbon, and the Army Overseas Service Ribbon. He has earned the Expert Soldier's Badge and the Air Assault Badge. It is my honor to welcome Captain Jonathan Roche.
Good morning, distinguished guests, veterans, family, friends, and broad advocates of all those who support and defend the Constitution of the United States. It is with great pride that I address you all on this original sacred day of remembrance. On behalf of the Rockstar Battalion and the Medina Recruiting Company, I thank you all for your time today. As a native of Cleveland, it has been nice to return to my home for these last 13 months. I work alongside nominal officers and non-commissioned officers with high hopes of bringing the proud citizens of Lorain, Summit, and Medina counties into the United States Army. Our team, much like the remarkable individuals we enlist, come from unique and diverse backgrounds. Despite these differences, our passion, commitment, and dedication to the Union is always the same. Much like the dedication of the men and women of the modern armed forces, we meet today at the Soldier and Sailors Monument, dedicated to the 9,000 service members who survived the Civil War and those who gave their last full measure of devotion to save that same Union. This monument and memorial service serve as stoic reminders of the true costs of the freedom and liberties we enjoy today. Officially, Memorial Day is observed on the last Monday of May, honoring the men and women who died while serving in the U.S. military. Originally known as Decoration Day, it was introduced in the year following the Civil War and became an official federal holiday in 1971. Today, we observe this holiday by visiting cemeteries and gathering with friends and family. We find the roots of our traditions tracing back to the 1860s. Americans in various towns and cities began holding springtime tributes to the countless fallen soldiers from the Civil War, decorating their graves with flowers and reciting prayers. In May of 1868, General John A. Logan, leader of an organization for Northern Civil War veterans, called for a nationwide day of remembrance. He stated, "The 30th of May, 1868 is distinguished for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet and churchyard in this land." The date of Decoration Day, as he called it, was chosen because it wasn't the anniversary of any particular battle. On the first Decoration Day, General and future President James Garfield, who is buried some 7 miles from here, made a speech at Arlington National Cemetery, and 5,000 participants decorated the graves of 20,000 Civil War soldiers buried there. Memorial Day, as Decoration Day came to be known as, originally honored only those lost during fighting in the Civil War. But during World War I, the United States found itself embroiled in another major conflict, and the holiday evolved to commemorate American military personnel who died in all our wars. For decades, Memorial Day continued to be observed on May 30th, the date General Logan had selected for the first Decoration Day. But in 1968, Congress passed the Uniform Monday Holiday Act, which established Memorial Day as the last Monday in May, going into effect in 1971. I would like to bring to your attention two individuals who exemplify courage and sacrifice. I have been lucky in my 9-year military career as an armor officer to have never seen combat. But the Army does not forget those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. I remember daily seeing the faces of these men on the walls of the units I have served in. These individuals will always be remembered for putting the needs of others before their own and illustrate the essence of Memorial Day. These individuals are Second Lieutenant Darwin Kyle of the 7th Infantry Regiment, Cotton Balers, and Second Lieutenant Robert Lacey of the 8th Cavalry Regiment, Mustangs. I chose these two individuals because both are Medal of Honor recipients from units and companies I have served in. As a reminder, the Medal of Honor is the United States' highest award for military valor in action. And while over 150 years have passed since its inception, the meaning behind the medal has never tarnished. Etched within are the very values that each recipient display in the moments that mattered most: bravery, courage, sacrifice, and integrity. A distinguished award presented only to the deserving, the medal tells a story of its own. Let's take a moment to remember theirs. Second Lieutenant Kyle was born in Jenkins, Kentucky, and was a veteran soldier in the United States Army in World War II, wearing both a Silver Star and a Bronze Star for his heroic actions in France and Germany. Later promoted to Master Sergeant at the beginning of the Korean War, he was awarded the Soldier's Medal for his heroic actions on December 24, 1950, during the final stages of the Hungnam evacuation. On January 27, 1951, he received a battlefield commission as a second lieutenant. He distinguished himself by conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty and actions against the enemy. February 16, 1951, at Hamni, Korea, where his platoon had been pinned down by intense fire. He completely exposed himself to move among and encourage his men to continue the advance against enemy forces strongly entrenched on Hill 185. Inspired by his courageous leadership, the platoon resumed the advance, but was again pinned down when an enemy machine gun opened fire, wounding 6 of his men. Second Lieutenant Kyle immediately charged the hostile emplacement alone, engaged the crew in hand-to-hand combat, killing all 3. Continuing on towards the objective, the platoon suddenly received an intense automatic weapons fire from a well-concealed hostile position on its right flank. Again, leading his men in a daring bayonet charge against this position, firing his carbine and throwing grenades, Second Lieutenant Kyle personally destroyed 4 of the enemy before he was killed by a burst from an enemy submachine gun. The extraordinary heroism and outstanding leadership of Second Lieutenant Kyle and his gallantry self-sacrifice reflect the highest credit upon himself and are in keeping with the esteemed traditions of military service. On January 16, 1952, at the Pentagon, his widow accepted the posthumous award of the Medal of Honor for his conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty. Second Lieutenant Lacey from Seattle, Washington, was a University of Washington graduate, commissioned as Second Lieutenant through Army Infantry Officer Candidate School. By December 2nd, 1969, he was serving as a platoon leader in Bravo Company, 1st Battalion, 8th Cavalry Regiment, 1st Cavalry Division. During a firefight on that day in Quoc Long Province, South Vietnam, during Operation Con Thang 4, he used his body to shield a fellow soldier from the blast of an incoming rocket-propelled grenade. His Medal of Honor citation reads as such: for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in actions at the risk of his life and above and beyond the call of duty, Second Lieutenant Lacey, Infantry, Company B, distinguished himself while serving as platoon leader during a reconnaissance mission. One of his platoons became heavily engaged by fire from a numerically superior enemy force located in a well-entrenched bunker complex. As Second Lieutenant Lacey deployed the remainder of his platoon to rescue the beleaguered patrol, the platoon also came under intense enemy fire from the front and both flanks. In complete disregard for his safety, Second Lieutenant Lacey moved from position to position, deploying his men to effectively engage the enemy. Accompanied by his radio operator, he moved to the front and spotted an enemy sniper in a tree in the act of firing a rocket-propelled grenade at them. Realizing there was neither time to escape the grenade nor shout a warning, Second Lieutenant Lacey, unhesitatingly and with full knowledge of the consequences, shielded the radio operator with his body and absorbed the full impact of the explosion. The valorous act saved the life of the radio operator and protected other men of his platoon who were nearby from serious injury. Despite his mortal wounds, Second Lieutenant Lacey calmly and confidently continued to direct the platoon's fire. When medical aid arrived, Second Lieutenant Lacey valiantly refused attention until the others, seriously wounded, were treated. His display of extraordinary courage an exemplary devotion to duty, provide the inspiration and leadership that enabled his platoon to successfully withdraw without further casualties. Second Lieutenant Lacey's gallantry at the cost of his life are in keeping with the highest tradition of the military service and will reflect great credit upon him, his unit, and the United States Army. The reason I bring these two heroes to light is to remind everyone of the essence of Memorial Day. Two different conflicts, roughly a decade apart, from two units I have served in. Yet the bravery and the unwavering duty remain the same. Both equally deserve recognition and remembrance among all others on Memorial Day. We established that Memorial Day serves as a tribute honoring all those who perished while serving in the military. These Americans fit that bill. Yet here we are paying tribute to their selfless actions and commemorating their achievements of earning the highest award for military valor in action. Both received this honor, both not forgotten today or any day. My family has a long history of serving during times of war, from the mountains of central and northern Italy to the shores of the South Pacific and the jungles of Vietnam. But thanks to the skill, dedication, leadership, and luck of men like Second Lieutenant Kyle and Second Lieutenant Lacey, my family has never had the tragedy of knowing the true cost of Memorial Day. At the beginning of this speech, I asked myself if I understood the meaning of sacrifice on Memorial Day. I merely drew upon two small case studies of the many in our nation's history. Their decisions required courage beyond measure, sacrifice, and unshakable conviction that their fight was for a cause bigger than oneself. I was searching for an answer to my question in the form of yes or no, but I am left with a feeling of ambiguity. Ladies and gentlemen, that may be the answer. We may pay homage to those who gave their last full measure of devotion so that we don't have to do that or understand it ourselves. I'm left somewhat in between a yes or a no because I can understand without action, and for that, I have a remarkable legacy to thank. May God bless you all, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Captain Roche. I would like to welcome our wreath presenters at this time. As I call them up, I would like them to go ahead and you can give a salute or a moment of reflection on the after you place your wreath. All right, representing the Army, Jeff Jukowitz, U.S. Army veteran. Representing the Marines, Kirk Kokel, U.S. Marine Corps veteran. Representing the Navy, Jerry Gray, U.S. Navy veteran. Representing the Air Force, Doug Larnard, U.S. Air Force veteran. Representing the Space Force, Crystal Robinson, Executive Director, International Women's Air and Space Museum. And representing the Coast Guard, Irish Shoforth, U.S. Army recruit, reporting this August. And presenting on behalf of our POWs and MIA, Larry Clement, Sons of America of AMVETS Commander. Thank you to all of our presenters. As we reflect on Memorial Day and Decoration Day, it is very much about those that are not here, those who do not come home, those who are not sitting at the dinner table. On a personal note, today I remember not just my great uncle, Sergeant John Pindro, who was a right waist gunner on the Susan Ruth B-17, who was shot down over Europe. But I remember my grandmother, who never got over that empty chair at the dinner table, who always kept Uncle Johnny in our thoughts and prayers and at our family functions, and kept him alive in our spirit. With that as a backdrop, I'd like to now have us reflect with a poetry selection, The Vacant Chair, presented by monument caretaker Anthony Butera.
We shall meet, but we shall miss him. There will be one vacant chair. We shall linger to caress him while we breathe our evening prayer. When a year ago we gathered, joy was in his mild blue eye, but a golden cord is severed, and our hopes in ruin lie. At our fireside, sad and lonely, oft will the bosom swell, at remembrance of the story, how our noble Willie fell, how he strove to bear our banner through the thickest of the fight, and upheld our country's honor with the strength of manhood's might. True, they tell of wreaths of glory, evermore will deck his brow, but this soothes the anguish only, sweeping o'er our heartstrings now. Sleep today, O early fallen, in thy green and narrow bed. Dirges from the pine and cypress mingle with the tears we shed.
Thank you, Tony. I would like to introduce and welcome U.S. Navy veteran Ted Prossi, Soldiers and Sailors Monument Commission President.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Captain Roche, and Tim Daly, and John Silvas. It would be remiss of me not to at least count out to you some of our other commissioners who are here as volunteers, who give their time and their energy to make sure this monument meets its purposes. Our Vice President is Ellen Connolly. Our two newest commission members, Doug Mazur and Pete Collins. Doug is an Army veteran. Pete is a Marine veteran. And seated right behind me is John Silvas, who's an Air Force veteran. So one way or another, we try and cover everything for you. We're here in front of this special place, 130 years in this heart of Cleveland. And in part, it's because the men who served and those that supported them came back from that war with renewed awareness, with an ability and an interest in their community. You may not know it, but this road out here was named for the Grand Army of the Republic, the veterans of the Army of the Potomac in the Civil War. And if you reflect back, you'd see that 5 of Ohio's sons wore the Union blue. They became president. And so the power of this group filters down through the decades and helps define who we are as a space and who we are as a people. When we reflect upon the sacrifice, it's hard to really visualize it unless you've experienced it. Our architect, our sculptor, a veteran named Levi Schofield, tried. This piece, just to my right, is from his regiment, the 103rd Ohio Volunteer Infantry, where at the Battle of Resaca, every man in that color guard was killed or wounded. And they're in that moment. So by looking at it, as you come to this monument, you can begin to understand in some small way the cost of war. And as Greg said, it's every war. It's not just the Civil War. Our primary purpose is to make sure the names of those from this county who served remain fresh in the book of national remembrance. And we hope that each of those, in your experience, who've served and who've sacrificed, will also be recalled. In my family with a tradition of service, like Captain Roche, we've lost very few. But when I go back to my father's grandfather, who fought in the Civil War and who's remembered inside this monument, his brother, also a young immigrant from Germany, served and died at the Battle of Chancellorsville in Virginia. His body was never found. On my mother's side, we look back to 1791 when the U.S. Army suffered its largest defeat at the time on the western frontier, here in Ohio, almost into Indiana, at the Battle of the Wabash. General Richard Butler was left on the battlefield, wounded by his brothers. And when the Army returned in 2 years, they found him in the same space. And he ultimately was recovered and buried in what is now Fort Recovery, Ohio. Every generation in my mother's family has contained a Richard in his honor. And so while these aren't direct ancestors, they're children of those from whom I'm descended. And those are the stories that were told as we grew up and should be told in every family, every community. And so Decoration Day, Memorial Day is a time for us to do so, to make sure we look at, reflect, and in our hearts thank those people for what they've done for us. And I thank each of you for coming, because this is a special time as well for you to be here and to refresh and support what we try and do here at the monument. Thank you so much.
I'd like to bring back up Commissioner John Silvas to read our benediction, and then the playing of taps.
Please rise. source of light and remembrance. As we bring this ceremony to a close, let us carry forward the sacred trust we hold to remember not only those from our own county who fought for the Union, but all American service members who gave their last full measure of devotion in the cause of freedom. May their sacrifices remind us that the cost of liberty is great and its preservation a shared duty. May we strive each day to live lives worthy of their courage, with humility, with honor, and with hope. As we go forth, may peace dwell in our hearts, and may their memory remain a living light that guides this nation towards justice, unity, and lasting peace. Amen.
Please stay standing for taps. I want to thank you for joining us today. I encourage you to come inside and pay some respect to those 9,000 names on the wall. Learn a little bit more about this building, why we're here, and what we do. We're happy to talk to you, answer questions you may have, and we are open 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. every single day. So please bring family and friends. Those of you who are joining us in the square, we are open today until 5:30. Inside, you will also see an exhibit to Harvey and his owner, Daniel Stearns. Harvey is a war dog of the 104th Ohio Volunteer Infantry. Very much a comfort animal for his owner, Daniel Stearns, who suffered from undiagnosed PTSD. Their legacy continues through a mental health fair, which we just had about 3 weeks ago. And at that time, we also dedicated a statue to Harvey right over here in our Harvey's Garden. So please check that out as well and learn a little bit more about Harvey inside too. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to our presenters. Thank you to Captain Roche, and thank you to our commissioners. Have a happy Decoration Day.
There were a lot of well, I'm sure somebody would have brought that up. The story of my father, like